The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
All right, third and final BS report of the week. We talked about A-Rod with my buddy Jacko on Monday. We gave a little preview of my trade value column that's going up on Thursday on ESPN.com on Tuesday with my buddy Joe House. And now today, a real guest who's not one of my buddies. Not that my buddies aren't real guests, but you know what I mean. Mike Breen. All right, let's bring him in, the voice of the Knicks on MSG, as well as the voice of basketball on ABC and a little bit on ESPN, Mr. Mike Breen. Thank you for finally coming on the podcast.
Finally, you finally asked me.
Well, you're on my list.
I've been waiting for an invitation for a long time now.
You know what it is? My pipes weren't good enough to really, I think a Breen Simmons podcast a year ago could have been a disaster because of my pipes, but I've really worked on getting them up into the C- range.
I've noticed.
So now it's not going to sound as bad. You called quite a game last night. It was
Yes, between the St. Louis Spirits of St. Louis and the Pittsburgh Conquistadors.
You called it too.
We needed a red, white, and blue ball.
You called it. You emailed me yesterday and you said something like, I'm in the Bay Area for Golden State Knicks. Both teams are going for 140.
First one, 140 wins, and that's what happened.
And it was, what was it, Warriors 144, Knicks 129?
Something like that. I know they scored 144.
Holy mackerel. I'm glad these days are back. I'm glad there's some run-and-gun teams in the league.
They're as fun to watch as anybody, Golden State, because the unexpected, you never know.
Yeah.
And they have some individual players that you never know. Steven Jackson is, to me, one of the most enjoyable players to watch because you have no idea what's going to happen from night to night.
Yeah. And if they trade with Amari, if they somehow can pull off an Amari trade, which is going to be tough because B. Adrians is a base year guy, and I think it's just going to be complicated. But, man, Amari, Steven Jackson, Baghetti, Jamal Crawford, and Monte Ellis, the ball's going up over midcourt.
Well, I think Jackson, too. Now, this gets into your whole argument of underrated, overrated.
Yeah.
Can you be both at the same time?
Well, now he's overrated again because they signed him to that dumb contract.
Oh.
He was underrated with the old contract, but now I think he's slightly overrated.
I think he can be both at the same time.
My prediction for the next one, I think it's going to be Hito Turkoglu. who's now underrated, and people go out of their way to talk about how underrated he is, but he's a free agent this summer, and somebody will overpay him, and he will become overrated. Kind of like David West this year.
It's amazing how quickly it can change.
It really is. I hope it happens to both of us someday. Let's talk about my favorite three-man team in broadcasting. I am mortally against three-man teams. I just think the success rate is so much lower than the failure rate. But here you go with this Van Gundy, Breen, Jackson team that's been great. Did you know right away it was going to work?
I thought it could because I knew the relationship that those two had. See, to me, that's the whole key, is the two analysts, because you're obviously vying for time in terms of analyzing the game and getting your info in and getting your humor in. But those guys have known each other for so long, and they've known each other in different ways, assistant coach player and then head coach player, and they've seen each other at different levels of their career. And the key is that not only do they like each other, which is obvious, but they really respect each other. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the whole thing, is that, if one's got something going one night, he'll pull back and vice versa. So I had a feeling it would. My only concern, and still is how long we can keep them together. Because, last year there were people knocking on the door. It's going to happen again this year. So I try as much as possible to tell them, all right, remember that 4-game and 5 nights, that Midwest trip when we got into the hotel in Minnesota at 4 o'clock in the morning, it was like minus 16 degrees. Remember how miserable you were? You don't want to do that anymore. So I keep trying to remind them of evenings like that.
And you're buying a lot of dinners on the road? Oh, no, let me get this, Mark. Let me get your mac and cheese. I want to talk about chemistry with you because you've had a pretty extended career at this point. You've had a lot of different partners, and you've hit the jackpot a couple of times. Didn't you work with Doc? You worked with Doc once upon a time, right?
Very, very briefly, because when he came, the years that he was with ESPN, ABC, that was, first he was with Brad Nessler and then with Al Michaels, and I filled in a couple of times, but very, very briefly.
So have you had the magic happen with partners like before this Van Gundy Jackson thing?
Well, I've had some guys that I don't know how other people view it, but for me it was instantaneous in terms of doing it. And
like who?
PJ Carlissimo.
Really?
He did a year at NBC, and I had known him for years. One of my first broadcasting jobs was not the play-by-play guy. I was the analyst on Seton Hall basketball radio. And so I'd known PJ for a long time, and I agree with you. That's huge in terms of broadcast chemistry. If you know somebody a long time, if you're friends with them, and if you're kind of around the same age, it makes it a little easier sometimes.
Yeah.
And he was really good. He had this raspy voice that some people didn't like, but what he said was really good. And we had 1 year together, and that was it. And I was so sorry that he went back into coaching because I thought he was really good.
Who did you do the comeback game with, the Nets-Celtics game?
With PJ.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was having flashbacks when you were talking about it. I was like, I think I had an enjoyable moment with those two. And I was like, oh yeah, this is one of the great Celtic games ever.
But then there's somebody like UB Brown who is just, I don't know if I enjoy the dinners the night before or the games themselves with him, because it's never ending, the amount of stuff you can learn, the stories you can hear. I mean, he's as fun as a person to be around if you love NBA basketball as there is.
Why do you think, I don't want to get you in trouble, but
Can I name 19 other analysts?
No.
Not to get anybody upset. Doug Collins was unbelievable.
No, I mean, we'll just assume everyone you worked with was incredible. Why?
Rebecca Lobo. I did a game with Rebecca Lobo.
What game was that?
The Liberty game.
Ooh. Wait, how did you get roped into that one?
Oh, I did a lot of WNBA. My most famous call is the Teresa Weatherspoon
the half-court shot. Wow.
That's me.
The second greatest moment in WNBA history, behind the brawl. So,
well,
anyway.
here's the thing. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
We're doing that game, and it's the Liberty and the Comets, and it's a Saturday in Houston in August. Have you been to Houston in August?
I've been to Houston in all kinds of different scenarios, and none of them were good.
It's very, very. I mean, it's brutal, the heat.
It's oppressive.
So we're there on a Saturday, and if the Liberty lose, the Comets win the series 2-0. We're all on a flight back home that Saturday night. But if the Liberty win, then we have to stay for Game 3, which is Monday. So we have to stay an extra 2 nights, 2.5 days. And it's actually a very good game. It goes down to the wire, and the Comets are leading by like 5. And I remember saying in the talk back to my producer, Ed Fibershoff, I said, boy, this is the perfect scenario. We get a good competitive game, and we're all going home tonight.
Yeah.
And then Weatherspoon hits the three-pointer, and I'm sure there were many obscenities said in the truck, despite the fact that it was the second greatest moment in WNBA history.
I want to write a book, an oral history from different people who've had terrible sports experiences in Houston. Because they've had, secretly a lot of different events. And it's just this big, sprawling city that you can't figure out even in the 10th time. As you said, during the summer, it's 1,000 degrees. It's just a really strange place. When they had the Super Bowl there, and I was making fun of the light rail because they built that light rail that started running over the people of Houston, and I was making jokes, and even the Houston people were like, "You're right. Yeah, I got no comeback." You all make good points.
Then you know there are concerns. But the heat's the only thing that bothers me. The people are great there, but the heat is. I went for a run one time in August, and I'm about a block from the hotel, and I didn't think I was going to make it back alive, and I was only a block away.
I love the people of Houston as well. I had a great book signing there. So back to the chemistry thing. Why don't the networks put more thought into, will this guy get along with this guy? Will this guy get along with these two guys? Why do they mix and match so much and just assume it's going to work out when we have just this body of evidence that suggests otherwise?
You know, it's a good question. I think that most feel that if you have two guys who are either good at a particular sport or just good at the craft, that they can work with anybody. That's the phrase you hear about a lot of play-by-play guys. It's a phrase you hear about a lot of analysts. They can work with anybody. And that's probably true. But I agree with you. It only happens once in a while where there's just there's that extra chemistry.
Yeah.
And to me, it goes back with as much as how friendly are you with the person? How long do you know the person? And do you have kind of the same likes and dislikes off the air? That might sound silly, but that's where the whole age factor comes in. And I think that's a key with Mark and Jeff and I, in that we're all around the same age. So we're into the same movies, watch the same TV shows. You grow up in the same era. And I think that comes into play. But I think you're right. I think sometimes more has to go into it.
Did you grew up idolizing Marv, right?
Everybody in New York did, who was into that stuff. I mean, he was the best growing up. He's the best of all time. And I think if you listen closely to any New York sportscaster my age or anybody who's been influenced, you'll hear so many different things that come straight from him.
Right, because you remind me of him. Just say, and it's the same thing because I watch so many games with him too, and there's little patterns that he has that just you end up soaking in.
Yeah, and you don't do it, you don't steal it deliberately, but it just from listening to so many games over the years, that's what happens. And you couldn't say a better compliment than saying that boy, you remind me of Marv, or you sound like Marv, or something.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's one of those rare things that it's 100% a good thing. The thing that you've taken from him, other than the way the excitement could go up and down, I think, is the way that you have fun with your partners, which is something that it really didn't matter who his partner was at any point in his career. He could always kind of draw out the guy's personality and was really good at it. It's a very underrated skill, I think.
Oh, the two things that I think with him, actually there's more than two. That's one of them by far, that you can have fun on the air with your partner. And if you're sitting at home and the guys on the air are having fun, you can't help but enjoy it. Too many times it's the guys don't sound like they're thrilled to be there. Well, right. You got to make them sound like there's no place you'd rather be.
Yeah.
And he was great at that, bringing that out. The other thing was he only got excited when it called for excitement. Mm-hmm. So when there was a big moment and that voice went up, I mean, you just knew this was a special moment. He saved it for the special moments, and I think that's something that the industry doesn't have as much. That guys are hooting and hollering too much on moments that don't really or shouldn't have that kind of call. I think that's one. And the other thing he does is he's not afraid to analyze because he knows the game so well, and I think that's allowed other play-by-play guys to do the same.
Yeah, I am a fan of either get excited when it's warranted, or just go the Gus Johnson route and just be excited the entire time to the point that you sound like your head's going to come flying off.
Right.
But,
now, there are exceptions, and Gus is unbelievable, and I'm fortunate to know Gus really well because he does the Knicks as well. In fact, we were on the plane last night and talking about certain things, and he has a new call for Al Harrington.
Uh-oh.
Al Harrington hits a shot, and Gus yells out, "My name is Al Harrington, and I make buckets." And it's only when Harrington's on a roll, and with Gus's voice, it's unbelievable. Now, if I said it, people would say, "What's the matter with him?" The way Gus says it, with Gus's voice and style, it's absolutely perfect.
Right, and he's kind of perfect for a team like this Knicks team because it's we all know they're holding fort for 2 years. Their goal is to be entertaining, but ultimately there's no real goal other than they're hoping to just land a bunch of these guys 2 years from now. But the best thing about the season probably for Knicks fans is that you and Gus are the guys announcing the games.
Well,
so at least you're going to match
fun,
the excitement.
But it's also fun, and I know you appreciate this. Mike D'Antoni is not only one of the best guys to deal with, but he is so much fun to watch on the sidelines.
The best.
The gyrations and 1 minute he has got the veins popping up, screaming at the ref, and the next minute he has the ref laughing hysterically on the side. He is such a roller coaster of emotions, and I think that's one of the strengths for him. The players love it that he's as into the game as anybody on the court.
The foot stomping routine is magical. When he hits a call, he just starts slamming his foot down like a little kid. So you've kind of been on the bench for a wide range of coaches for following that Knicks team, because you were there for the Larry Brown year, right?
Sure.
You were there for the Isaiah, a little bit of that.
I was there for starting with Riley, and
wow.
then the half the Don Nelson season. My first year was Riley's first year.
Really?
Yeah.
So you saw Riley, Don Nelson, Van Gundy, Isaiah, Larry Brown, Mike
Don
D'Antoni.
Chaney, a couple of Herb Williams interims.
Well, but 5 of those coaches are probably 5 of the 10 best coaches the last 30 years.
Well, Riley was very intimidating for anybody, let alone a guy new to the NBA. And I used to have to go and do his pregame show. We'd go into his office, and the lights would always be so dim. And you'd walk in, and you'd say, "Is it okay?" And then you'd ask questions, then you'd leave. There would be no conversing back and forth. And the first year, I think I said maybe 3 words to him. But the first game, and here is, I'm an intimidated rookie NBA announcer, and we're in the hotel, and I'm in the elevator, and the door's open, and I see Riley coming towards the elevator. And he looks up as if to hold the door, and I went to press the button to hold the door, and of course I hit the wrong button. And the door closes, right as he gets to the face. Right on his face it closed. And I thought, that's it. Before my first game, I'm going to get fired. But he was unbelievable to watch on a daily basis. And then Jeff was, the way Jeff grew into being a head coach was an amazing thing. And
so wait a second though. So you were there for when Pat Riley ruined the sport of basketball and set it back 10 solid years with Riley ball. He took what the Bad Boys Pistons did, pushed it two levels higher, and basically ruined the competitiveness of the league. And now we have all these flagrant fouls and stupid rules, and guys can't look at each other for more than a second without getting a technical, and all because of Pat Riley.
Well, here's where you and I disagree in that I love the game as a free-flowing game. And I always get, oh, come on, it's not like the old days where guys were physical. Look back at the old tapes. Was anybody playing defense back then?
No.
There's nobody close to playing any kind of defensive intensity.
They would turn it on in the last 5 minutes. But I do think that it wasn't emphasized as much. And more importantly, the coaching and the scouting and the film study, it just wasn't what it was. You had Casey Jones coming out, and it took him 4 games to realize that DJ should be guarding Magic in the 1984 finals. You weren't dealing with a bunch of rocket scientists back then. And I think in the 90s we saw that change. I think Fratello played a big part of it in Cleveland. Riley played a big part of it, Daly. And all of a sudden we saw a little overcoaching. But I do think that Riley realized this is the best way I can win. I'm not going to beat Jordan from a talent standpoint, but I can beat him by wearing him down, beating the crap out of him. And really, nobody came closer to, I don't think anybody gave the 90s Bulls a harder time than that 92 Knicks team.
No, there were at least 3 years, Bill, where they were the second best team in the league.
Yeah.
And not by much. They were right there, but just not enough.
Where did you stand on Patrick Ewing after seeing him up close for basically the second half of his prime?
In watching NBA on a night-in, night-out basis, I think this is my 18th year, he, as much as any player, played so hard every night at both ends of the floor.
Right.
And to me, that's something that you can't say enough about because of how hard he played and how much he hated to lose. Now,
Hold on a second. Are you talking about Patrick Ewing or Jerome James? I lost my track. Ewing, right? Okay, go ahead.
The affable Jerome James. I remember, by the way, he got that whole contract on one of the great series of all time.
Yes.
Against Sacramento. People say it was that whole playoff run. It wasn't the whole playoff run. It was just the Sacramento series because he didn't play as well against San Antonio.
Right. And lurking in my column archives is a joke about how he played so well in that series and made such a good contract run that Isaiah was going to be dumb enough to sign him. And I predicted it 3 months before it happened. Isaiah was great. So Ewing, the Knicks fans, I still feel, they had to defend him, obviously. They had to talk themselves into the we can win a title with Patrick Ewing thing. But ultimately, he wasn't really he wasn't on that level. He was one smidge below.
All right, below who, though? He's one smidge below, to me, the all-time greats because he was right there.
But he was definitely a level below Hakeem, who worked him like a speed bag in the 94 finals.
Yes, but not as much, not as far below as you think. He had a lot of games where he went at him as well. But Hakeem was right. Hakeem had that 3-year stretch where you could say he was as good as anybody who's ever played the position.
Yes, and I think that's true. My problem with Ewing is that, he had the 4 years at Georgetown. Then he played for Hubie and then Pitino and by 1990, you look at his stats, he averaged like 29 points, 13 rebounds, something, 55% shooting. But I think by the time you got to watch him on a daily basis, I think his knees were shot. I just don't think he physically was the same guy. He certainly wasn't the same guy we watched at Georgetown.
He wasn't, and that's the other impressive thing about him, in that, you know, you'd see every game in the locker room. He led the league in ice bags every year. I mean, they were just packed up after every game, but it didn't affect him from practicing. It didn't affect him from playing hard. I mean, here's another thing, and this is something that we undervalue, how much he loved the game, loves to play the game. There are too many guys who play because they're good athletes, too many guys who play because the money. But you add that guy who you know would be playing in 4 or 5 rec leagues. If he wasn't playing in the NBA, he'd be in 4 or 5 rec leagues a week, playing 5 or 6 nights a week, double headers on Saturdays, the Tuesday night league. I mean, and Ewing was one of those guys. He loved to play. He just loved to play the game.
I think it was the 92 Knicks. There's a possibly apocryphal story about Anthony Mason and Xavier McDaniel getting into like a 40-minute fight at practice and Riley refusing to break it up. True or not true?
I don't know of a 40-minute fight in practice. I do know that if you ask that there were some skirmishes in McDaniel and Oakley and Mason, but the one guy that nobody ever wanted to mess with was Xavier McDaniel.
Really, even over Oakley?
Yeah, a lot of guys said that because he would just flip. Once that switch was turned, forget it.
So he'd take it 2 levels beyond where it needed to go.
Right, and he was that was a guy that was underrated, to use that word again, in those some of those Knicks Bulls games.
Well, that 92 series was great, and he did a nice job of really getting in Pippen's head, being physical with him, intimidating him. I always enjoy when those series come on NBA TV. But back to Oakley. I've written in the past that he's really the real life Shaft. The way he carries himself and the air about him. Was he even like that in the early mid-90s?
Oh yeah. You can't call anybody cool anymore. He was cool. He just
cooler
was cool.
than cool. Yeah, cooler than cool. Owns the room.
And he would some of these analogies he'd bring up, and I couldn't even begin to remember them, were just so off the wall. That he would, describe somehow his mother's cooking as to why the Knicks weren't playing so particularly well.
Right.
And it just, sometimes you just couldn't understand where he was going. But then at the end, you'd say, you know what, it makes a lot of sense. And although there was a little jealousy there, I think, with Ewing, because Ewing got so much of the publicity and, the Hall of Famer, and Charles did everything to do that you needed to do to win. But at the same time, there was a very cool respect between the two of them. But he just, same thing like Ewing. Every night, you just knew exactly what you're going to get. Old-fashioned. Just loved watching him play every single night.
And Starks, who now has become underrated because everybody just brings up the fact that he killed them in Game 7, even though he kind of brought them back in Game 6. But he had that terrible Game 7 that is the first thing is associated with him. Meanwhile, I don't think anybody has ever guarded Jordan better than Starks did. I just thought he did as good of a job as you could possibly do against the guy.
I would so agree with that, and that's something that doesn't get talked about because Jordan had big numbers.
Right.
But
worked his ass off for him, though.
You ain't kidding. And it's the thing with John is Michael would drop 40 on him, but he would never get deflated.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you guard the big-time players. You get deflated because you think there's nothing I can do. Well, John, like with the way he shot, he always thought the next shot was going in. He always thought he was going to stop him this next time because no matter what happened prior, it didn't affect his confidence in what he was going to do.
And unfortunately, I think the 94 finals did end up affecting his confidence. He had 2 straight finals where guys were never the same after because the next year Nick Anderson was never the same. Well, he missed those 4 free throws and was a basket case.
I think that was up in the head for Nick. With John, I think it started to get to the point where physically, because you put everything into it and all the stuff he had to do before he got to the league, I think eventually he just started to break down a little bit.
I really like those 92, 93, 94 Knicks teams. And by contrast, I hated the teams that followed. I hated watching them. Those Heat Knicks series, I just would rather pull my hair out than watch. But I like the, especially the 92 and the 93 teams, I thought were really unique, physical, high character, interesting teams that had they come around 15 years later, I don't think there's any question they win a title. You know, they're so good defensively and so well coached, and you know, they're just kind of a victim of their era almost.
One of my all-time favorite guys as a player is Derek Harper, and it's just from what I saw in those couple of years he was with the Knicks. You know, just that style, all just so professional, so tough, defensive-oriented, and, you know, hated to lose, but at the same time, he put on a show after they lost the finals and how he handled it in the locker room. I mean, he was distraught. He was going to be the finals MVP if the Knicks won in '94.
Right.
And he was distraught, but he stayed there for hours afterwards answering the same question over and over again. And he kept telling people, you know, I feel sick to my stomach, but at the same time, I just went through what I've always dreamed of as an athlete, and I'll never forget this experience. And just in terms of putting it all in a proper place, he got it, as the expression goes. He just got it, what it was like to be a professional athlete.
So you crossed paths with Doc and the Knicks then. That explains.
Well, that's when I became friendly with him because he got hurt. So he wasn't playing, and but he would travel with the team. So that's
I swear, Doc has more media connections than anybody. Every time I don't write anything negative about him anymore because he's on pace to win 130 games in 2 years. But when the Celtics were bad and I was really killing them, and I still feel like, you know, rightfully so for the most part, but so many people like you and so many others who he'd cross paths with were just like, hey, just so you know, Doc is the greatest guy ever. Like, you just have to, I just want you to know that. I don't care what you write. Just please make sure that you consider that before you write anything about him. And this guy was like Gandhi. This guy just touched everybody.
Well, you know what it is, Bill? It's because he treats everybody the same way, from the commissioner of the NBA to the intern ball boy on the visiting team. Everybody gets treated the same way, and it's genuine, and that's why people just think the world of him.
Well, he's done. I'm still not sold on that he could coach different types of teams, but I think with this specific team, he's done a really good job, other than the fact that he keeps throwing Big Baby out there to throw 15-foot bricks, which I can't get over.
And Big Baby's not hesitant to throw them up.
Oh, my God.
And the other thing with Doc, and I remember saying this during the finals last year, he was the same person the year they won 24 as they won 66, handled everything the same exact way. And how many guys you've ever met, in or out of sports, would you be able to say that about?
Let's talk about your, God, I have so many things I would ask you. I don't want to we'll have to save some for the next podcast, but we got to talk about the fact that you're the Zelig of NBA broadcasters. Do you understand that reference?
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Woody Allen.
You were, let's go through it. So, you were there for the biggest playoff comeback in NBA history, Nets Celtics, right?
Correct.
You were there last year for the biggest finals comeback in NBA history.
Correct.
So we had Nets Lakers, Celtics Lakers. You were there for the Artest melee.
Yeah, yes, I was. And that was about my 12th pretty big brawl that I broadcast.
Well, you were there for the Artest melee? Were you there for Carmelo Anthony, that fight?
At the Garden?
Yeah.
Yes.
There was another.
Jeff Van Gundy with his legs around.
You were there for Jeff Van Gundy with the legs around.
Derek Harper and JoJo English fighting 2 feet in front of David Stern in Chicago.
And that, you know, everybody says Kermit Washington, that was when the NBA, blah, blah, blah. It's all crap. It was the JoJo English fight that spawned all the no fighting penalties because that spilled into the first 3 rows, basically.
Yeah.
And didn't that kind of spill into the table?
No.
Oh, it didn't? I thought it spilled onto the media table.
No, I think it missed it.
So what am I missing? So wasn't there one more big one you were at?
Well, the Marcus Camby, Danny Ferry, and Martin Luther King. That was a good one.
That could have been Kermit, too, if he connected with the punch.
Right, and Jeff got the worst of that.
Yeah. And, wait, there's one more thing you were at that blew me away. I guess being at the Artest melee, I mean, basically you're the Zapruder of NBA brawls. I mean, just walk through that with me. So he's lying on the table. You were probably like 5 feet away from him, 10 feet?
No, we're on the other side.
Oh, you're on the other side.
Right. We were on the opposite sides of the bench. The national broadcasts are on the opposite sides. They're not on the team side. Okay. So I could see the whole thing coming from that perspective. And then when he started going down, you knew it could be trouble because I've known him since he was in high school.
Yeah.
And it's, again, one of those things when the switch goes, you just can't turn it off.
Yeah.
So when he started going down to the other side, I thought he was going down to the other bench. And that's the first thing I said, Artest is going down to the other bench. And instead, he veers left and goes up into the stands. And right away you knew it was bad because the surge of the fans were coming right down.
Right.
And the thing that got me really nervous was that every time they seemed to break up one area, another area would go. And the people who were breaking up the first area would quickly run over to the second area, leaving that first area naked once again. So it seemed like it wasn't going to stop. One would happen after another. And then when they finally got Artest pulled away from the melee, they brought him all the way over to our side. And they turned him around quickly. And I remember seeing the look in his eyes, and I even mentioned something about it on the air. I can't remember that crazed look in somebody's eyes like it was Artest.
I agree.
It was off the charts. And then the other thing that really sticks out, I remember watching as the Pacers were going under the tunnel to go back to the locker room. There was, just the venom that was coming out of a handful of the fans, throwing stuff at them and just spewing every possible obscenity.
And booing.
And it was so ugly. And there was a woman, a very nicely dressed woman. She was probably about 25 years old, right in the middle of it. And I'm looking at her, I'm saying, oh, this poor woman, she's not going to be able to get out of this. And then all of a sudden, this woman pulls out a full bottle of water and starts spewing as many obscenities and throws the bottle of water from about 10 feet away at one of the Pacers. And I'm thinking, oh, my, talk about crowd mob mentality. I'm still
really
shocked to this day nobody got seriously hurt.
Especially when the chairs started flying around.
Yeah, it was. It's amazing that nobody was really, really injured or worse.
So as you're announcing that, are you? Obviously you're in a little bit of fear for your own safety, right?
Not really, because we were on the other side. But at one point, I turned around on our side of the stands, and I should say, not some, but a lot of the fans were coming down, were kind of surging toward the court on that end. So if it wasn't broken up, I was afraid that people on our side were going to go over. But never felt for safety. I just, when is this going to end before somebody gets really hurt? That was the thing that was going through my head the whole time.
And then when you're announcing it, are you just basically talking out loud? Like, what are you listening to the producer?
It.
Like, what are you doing?
It's like you're doing play-by-play. I'm looking at one scene. All right, here's the play-by-play of that. All right, that's over. Now this is starting over here. And you just do one play-by-play after another just to exactly describe what's happening.
So it's kind of like announcing the Royal Rumble in the WWF.
Yeah.
You're trying to keep track of everything.
But you know what, Bill? Seriously, the heroes for us were the camera guys that night. We have, to me, they're the most underrated part of our business, what these guys do night in and night out. But for them to stick their faces in there with these big cameras on their shoulders and get all these scenes and stay with it, I can't believe they did it because they were in some danger in some of the spots they were in.
Who did you do the game with?
Bill Walton.
Oh, that's right. He just kept going, this is terrible. This is terrible.
He was genuinely hurt. By the way, if you don't mind, Bill just underwent major back surgery on Sunday.
Again?
Yeah, it's the first time he did the back surgery. He's tried rehabbing it.
Oh, I knew he was in traction last year for like 2 months.
Right, but it worsened again, and he just had major surgery. So I just want to send out best wishes and hello because I know he's a big fan of yours.
Oh, so he's out for the year now?
I don't know if for the year, but he's going to be rehabbing for quite some time.
God, nobody has had worse luck with their body than Bill Walton.
No, I know.
I mean, it's like his feet went, his ankles went, his back went. What's left? It's like a structural collapse.
He's had about 30 surgeries total in his life.
Jesus. And really probably one of, ceiling-wise, I think the second greatest center of all time. But that's neither here nor there. So after that game, the game ends, I think, short of when it was supposed to end. It ended with like 40 seconds. So players go off the court, things settle down. So then what happens? You and Bill Walton are like, all right, good job tonight. Where are we going to dinner? Like, what happens? What do you do after that?
We went back to the hotel, and we were on. because of the ESPN machine, we had to do a bunch of different shows, radio and TV after, to talk about what happened. But we went back to dinner, and just couldn't believe it. Just kept looking at each other like, holy mackerel. And then I must have stayed up all night watching all the replays, and I don't remember sleeping that night because it was such an unbelievable event.
Were you critiquing your own call as you're watching the replays?
Yeah, well, yes, of course you do. And one of them was when I said Arteta's going down to the other bench when he was now clearly going up into the stands to go after this one guy.
You're like, damn it, I should have gotten more excited when Jermaine O'Neal punched that guy coming on the court. I really could have brought that up.
It wasn't. I needed more of a crescendo, I suppose.
What do you think? What's your signature call? Would you say? Because with Marv, it's yes.
Right.
You don't really have one totally, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I really have one. There's certain phrases I use on a regular basis for big moments, but I don't know if I have what you would call a signature call.
See, I think you do, but there's no way to easily define it like you can with yes. You have that thing when we're nearing the end of the game and it's a big moment, like let's say Kobe slices through the lane and throws the reverse layup, and you do Kobe in line. Oh, what a play by Kobe! You bring it up there for as the shot's going in, you keep it there for 3 seconds. It's distinctive, and I can't put my finger on it.
Somebody described it to me as like your surprise call. It's like you act surprised.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Yeah, it's surprise, and you get a lot of words in a short time. What a spectacular move by Kobe Bryant! And you're just completely shocked by it, but rightfully so because it was an amazing move.
Although the word spectacular is one that you try and avoid. Now, this is the reverence you have for those who come before you. Because of that, that's one of the all-time great calls. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. At a big moment, I try never to use that. Now, sometimes it slips out, but to me, that's the great phrase he used. You can't use that word in big moments.
Were you proud of him when LeBron had the 48-point game in the 2007 playoffs and Marv it was like going in the time machine for Marv? He brought out all the tricks.
That was one of the
great.
See, now I'm watching that game from two different angles. One, as a basketball fan, look at what we're watching here. And two, as a play-by-play guy with a legend calling a legendary game. So you watch that almost as much as the game when you're in the business.
So how much of it was luck to get where you are? Because I know there's a million people want to be announcers, and you catch one break, whatever, you get one door opens, you kind of squeeze in, and then it's kind of what you make of it from there. But do you look back and think like, man, if one thing had gone differently, I'd be working at Target right now?
There's no Targets in my neighborhood, but there are a couple of other stores similar that I could have easily qualified.
Yeah.
But there's no question because it's luck, it's timing, it's friends who help you out or people that you know who do a good thing for you. You just look around the NBA, some of the radio and TV local guys, the play-by-play guys. These guys are unbelievable how good they are. I mean, a guy like Iron Eagle, who's the second guy on the Nets now with Marv doing it. A guy like Kevin Calabro. There's so many good young guys. I mean, there's so many good play-by-play guys out there. So, people say you're the voice of the NBA. I hate that title because to me it's not true. There's so many voices of the NBA. You could say that about Marv during his 14-year stretch. That was different. Yeah. But there's so many good voices of the NBA that people listen to, and I just happen to be fortunate to work for the company that has the finals now. So people, because I do the finals, attach that to, and I understand why. But it's because I'm working for ABC, ESPN that I do that. But there are too many really good voices of the NBA to say there's one. And I don't say that in self-modesty. I really believe that.
Well, you do a great job. So let's quickly talk about the 2008 season because I know you got to prep for tonight's exciting Knicks-Clippers game that really should be a barn burner. The Zach Randolph's emotional return against the Knicks. You've seen all these teams in person now. Who do you think's the best team?
I would have easily said the Lakers with Bynum. Even without, I still think they've got a chance to win it all, not just get to the finals. About 2 weeks ago, I would have told you the team playing the best is Cleveland. But now with some of the injuries, it's starting to catch up to them. But if you put everybody healthy, put Bynum on the Lakers back and he's healthy, put Delonte West, who is one of my underrated guys. Hate to use it, but to me he's very underrated. Put him back with Cleveland. I think with the LeBron factor and the hunger factor that Cleveland has, and there's a real cool hunger factor, both with the players and the city that kind of pumps it through the players. I might go with Cleveland right now in terms of everybody healthy, but we got to see who comes back healthy, and once after the trading deadline goes through, see who does what.
What do you think of my rock, paper, scissors, whatever the fourth thing would be with, it seems like I think the Celtics could beat San Antonio, regardless of what happened on Sunday. They should have won that game. I think San Antonio can beat the Lakers. The Lakers own Cleveland now for reasons that I can't explain. And I think Cleveland will beat Boston in the series because of LeBron is just going to be the best guy in the court. And they really probably could have won last year, but P.J. Brown plays the best 6 minutes of his last 10 years, and Posey's out there. And I just think the balance has shifted enough that now I think the Cavs are the favorites. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do think the Cavs are the favorites, and I agree with you about people forget how many little moments made the difference between the Celtics being knocked out early and then winning the championship. But that happens every
basketball.
year. It just seemed to be more last year. But the way Boston started this year was so scary, and how they were out to prove that there was no letdown, that I think they can get that back. I think a Boston-Cleveland conference final has a chance to be one of the great conference finals ever. And I think I agree with you about the Spurs. The Spurs have a shot to beat the Lakers. It's all about the matchups, who beats what and who gets matched up with what. I mean, that's the NBA. But again, everybody healthy right now, I would lean more towards Cleveland. I just think that hunger factor of never having won it, the city, desperate for it. It's a really cool atmosphere going on in that arena, which is too loud. With the stuff they pump in, but the fans are unbelievable how fired up they are, and that plays a big part in it, I think, more than we give credit to sometimes.
And LeBron is on a mission. Not that the Lakers, aren't just on the same type of mission, but LeBron has never really hit this level before, where Kobe's been there a bunch of times. He was basically there last year for the last 4 months. This is the first time this has all happened to him, and I think that if you just study NBA history, for the great players, the first time that happens, they really do kind of go to another level. And I'm not sure what he has in store for us. That's what I'm more excited about for this playoffs than anything. I don't know where this goes with him.
Yeah, I said the other night or the other day on the air, he easily has a chance to go down as the greatest player ever.
Yes.
Now, for most people that means he's going to have to start winning some titles. But what he does, I've never seen. I mean, you can take different things from some of the great players of all time, put them together, and that's him. And he still has room for improvement, which is the scary thing.
Jump shot. He needs to start making that 20-footer. It's still way too streaky. Once he and also, if you really want to nitpick, and this probably won't happen for 3 more years, but once he develops a low post game, which he still doesn't have, I don't know what happens. I don't know what you do, because then you just play him at power forward, and I don't know how a team would match up with that. Right.
His whole game, he can change his game in so many ways as he gets older too.
Yeah.
That's going to be scary. But I agree with you. It's up. He has something to prove. It's up in his head now to win a championship. He knows that the possibility is there right now, and they can absolutely win one this year. So even for a guy who has so many diverse things going on in his life outside of basketball, I've never seen anybody at his age handle expectations, handle the constant scrutiny as mature as this. He's the most mature professional athlete I've ever seen in my life. Wow. On how he handles every single situation, and he handles it straight on. And some people don't like the way he says certain things, but he does it in a straightforward manner that I've never seen before.
And I think he kind of senses his place in history a little bit too. I think he knows, all right, if I'm really going to leave in 2010, I don't want to be the guy that gets added to the list of all the terrible things that happened to Cleveland, where they never quite won the title with me, and then I leave and I basically murder basketball in Cleveland. So I think there's almost an urgency for him, because I do think he wants to go to the next step of his career and play for a bigger market and have a lot of those things happen to him that, can't really totally happen in Cleveland. But on the other hand, he's from there, and he knows he can't just leave without winning a title.
But don't you think, and this is to me, Bill, one of the cool things about a lot of these younger players, and LeBron is right there at the forefront of this, they understand the history, not only of the league, the NBA, but the cities they play in, whether it's LeBron about Cleveland, whether it's Chris Paul in New Orleans. These young guys are they are off the charts in terms of their history and their love of the game. They watch so much of opposing guys. I mean, how about LeBron coming out and saying after Kobe went off for the 61, I watched the whole game. He goes, I was watching it because I was looking for some things that I could do against the Knicks in a couple of nights. These guys watch games night after night.
Yeah, Pierce is like that too. Pierce always had a very acute sense of what basketball meant in Boston and what his place could be if things turned out well. But it's the one thing that I've never. Oh, here I go. I'm a Kobe hater again. It's the one thing I never sensed from Kobe, and I think partially it's because he wasn't here for a few formative years. You know, he lived in Italy, came back for, I guess, 2-3 years of high school, and then was in the NBA. Like, how do you become like this NBA fan who has all these memorable, great moments that you remember when you really didn't experience them?
You know, that's a good point, because as much as you when you're over in Italy, you can watch, there's still a certain detachment that you don't really understand.
Yeah. Well, they probably had like a game of the week when he lived there, you know? It's not like he was following the league.
But he does, you know, I talk about watching film and stuff. They say that nobody has ever watched more film in the Lakers history than this guy.
Wow.
In terms of what he can find. And anytime you bring up an older name, like a comparison stuff, he knows as much about that guy as anybody current. So somehow he found out a way. And I do think you are a Kobe hater, yes.
I went last night because I had to see Durant. Kobe is amazing. What's really amazing is that he's still adding stuff to his game, and it's like his 13th year. Like, he has that weird spin move now. He's got that little MJ turnaround that he developed over the summer. He's still adding stuff to the package at a time when I thought maybe his knees would start to go and maybe he would start hitting the other side of his career. Not happening.
One of the Orlando Magic assistants, Steve Clifford, told me that this summer he would go in early, like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, several days a week, and for a couple of weeks he would get to the Orlando training facility, and who would be there already in a full sweat, already halfway through his workout, was Kobe. He brought his family to Disney, and he would get up a couple hours before he'd wake the kids to take them to the Magic Kingdom, and off he would go to the facility every single day for the however long he was there, and work like a madman from like 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, and then go back to the hotel, wake up his kids, and go to Disney. And he did it every single day.
And to me, that's been the most underreported, under-talked about thing with LeBron, and what has made the difference from this year is that these guys not only are competitive, but they pick up other things from other players that they might not have thought about. And there's LeBron on this dream team, or whatever, Redeem team, whatever it's called. And he's on this Redeem team, and Kobe's getting up at probably 5:30 every morning to work out, and LeBron's probably like, maybe I should start doing this. And then all of a sudden he goes to another level.
That's what they all said, is they learn different training regimens, they learn different stretches, different workouts from each other, and it all made them better. It's nuts. That was a huge reason why Barkley made that leap in '92, because he spent that summer with Jordan. And all of a sudden, not so coincidentally, shows up in shape and wins the MVP that he probably shouldn't have won. But was that the best game you've done, the Olympic game? Like most surprisingly exciting game? The gold medal one?
Yeah.
Yes, because you didn't think it was going to be that close.
Yeah.
And Spain played so well.
You were basically broadcasting the reverse of the 1980 USA-USSR game, but America was USSR.
Right. I always say I love international basketball because of the passion, and I still say that maybe the most exciting game I ever broadcast was the 2002 World Championships gold medal game. That was Yugoslavia and Argentina. That's when Manu Ginobili first was shown to the world.
I fell in love with him then.
And that game. Here we are in Indianapolis, and there are all these fans from Argentina and all these fans from Yugoslavia, and all just chanting and singing the whole game. And it went into overtime, and they're back and forth, and the game ends. And Yugoslavia is all their fans and the players are crying in joy, and Argentina, they're all crying in disappointment. That was as exciting a game as I've ever done. But this one, because of all the history went over the last couple of years and the expectations, it was really neat. And my favorite part was after the game when LeBron James, it's 10 seconds after the buzzer, and he comes running over to Doug Collins, and there was a table in between us, and he went over to kind of shake his hand, and he's saying, I could see it, almost read his mind saying, nah, a handshake's not going to work here. He hops over the table and puts Doug in this big bear hug, and gives him a hug and says, this is for you, this gold medal is for you, because Doug had spoken to the team in Las Vegas before they went over, telling him how, to this day, he still hurts from what happened in '72 and representing a country he can never take for granted. It was a really emotional speech, and LeBron, it hit home with LeBron. And for him to come over like 10 seconds after the buzzer and do that, and then now Doug is crying, and I'm on the air with a partner who's crying, and I'm getting all emotional, and it was an unbelievable moment.
I was going to ask you about that because I could kind of feel like that was happening because he went quiet for a while, and I could tell you were choked up. And you were like, guys coming over to greet Doug Collins, but, they didn't switch and actually show it. But it seemed like it was emotional. It was one of those emotional moments that wasn't captured quite the way it
it's hard because it's a world feed, so there are only so many cameras, so we're at a tough spot there. Plus, we wanted to still show the celebration. But Doug was just, he was overwhelmed, and then every player started coming over, and some of them saying, this is yours 36 years late, but it's yours. It was hard to keep your emotions in check that day.
So the affection with that team, with each other, and for the goals that they had to do, you thought was 100% genuine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Krzyzewski did a great job with them in kind of treating them like men, but at the same time bringing home certain points of sacrifice. And that was the great thing, is the sacrifice. All these guys, some of these guys like a Tayshaun Prince or any of them who come off the bench, they'd play their 5 minutes like they were playing Game 7 of the finals. They didn't care. Right. They hadn't sat. Michael Redd did the same thing. He didn't play a heck of a lot, but when he got his call, they all so sacrificed for the good of the team. It was really cool to watch.
It reminded me of Derek Coleman and the '94 Dream Team. Oh wait, it didn't remind me of that at all. Well, Mike Breen, you've had some very lucky basketball experiences. I'm very envious of you. You've seen some great games. Got to call them. You get to live on NBA TV, ESPN Classic. You're going to hopefully call the best 2000 or the best playoffs we're going to have in, I don't know, really could be since 1993, this playoffs. I have high hopes. Don't you think? High hopes this year?
I have high hopes every year, but this year has a chance to be unbelievable.
It really does. Especially, Kobe LeBron would be awesome. Celtics-Lakers rematch would be awesome. I'm still one of the only people who love San Antonio. Like, I love Duncan. I love Ginobili. I love Popovich. I love watching them. I knew that Roger Mason, that little sneaky pick for Roger Mason where he's going to shoot that three, I knew that was coming. I just think they're so smart, and I love the way they approach everything. So I wouldn't even care if they were in the finals. But
I wouldn't either. Most people say, "Oh no, not to me." They're what basketball's about. It's great,
yeah.
And any of those teams would be an unbelievable final.
All right. Well, good luck. Say hi to Van Gundy and Jackson for us, and hopefully we'll have you again on the playoffs.
I'd be an honor. This is a big deal for me. I had more friends of mine who I told I was coming on, asked me to please say their name. I have all these Red Sox fans.
Oh. Well, you can say them all as a group. You could say hello to all of them.
All the Red Sox. Well, the producer or the director of our MSG games is Howie Singer.
Yeah.
And Kevin McHale, ironically, who's one of the ADs on it. These two guys are the biggest Red Sox fans ever, and they love you for the Red Sox stuff. And quite frankly, I am sick and tired of hearing about the Red Sox being a Met fan. So all these guys wanted me to mention their names. I mean, there's a whole list of them. So this is I felt pressure coming on today.
All right, well, we'll just do those two. Next time we'll do more. We'll do more.
Okay.
Names. Okay. Mike Breen, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Bill.
Okay, bye-bye. Before we go, I had to do some quick emails because it's the last podcast of the week. This is from Matt in Tampa. So I'm at a Super Bowl party and Gary Russell scores his touchdown. I start laughing since I know your buddy Sal just lost his Super Bowl lock bet. I notice this cute girl across the room is laughing as well. We noticed each other and I said, "Cousin Sal?" She laughed and said, "All right, someone else here listens to the BS report." We ended up hanging out the rest of the night, and we've been on 2 dates since the Super Bowl party, and I may not have even talked to her unless Cousin Sal made that bet. Thanks, Cousin Sal. It's a nice story. Heartwarming. Corey from Avon said, in your podcast with Jacko, you're trying to think of a white athlete who was or is as unlikable as Barry Bonds. Is there a better example than Rick Barry? No, there is not. Rick Barry was more unlikable than Barry Bonds. Rick Barry was more unlikable, maybe not only more unlikable than any athlete, I think, who ever played, but you really have to put him in the unlikable pantheon and compare him to other historical figures. Andrew in Alston, Massachusetts writes, I don't take umbrage with your opinion on Ray LaMontagne. It's La, not Lay, so Ray LaMontagne. I can understand it, but just hear out some of his fans. I grew up in Maine, and LaMontagne hails from my state. I enjoy his music, but seriously, anytime anyone of note comes out of Maine, it's pretty automatic that you have to be a fan if you come from the great state. I mean, have you seen ESPN's Maine Mount Rushmore? A journeyman shortstop, a hockey player who played 1 year for our college hockey team, a female basketball player that fizzled out in the WNBA, and a female Olympic distance runner. Throw us a bone. It's a solid point, and to be honest, Maine is like Australia and Canada to me. I've never not enjoyed anybody from Maine, so I'm going to have to reevaluate my Ray LaMontagne feelings. Although, man, I can't turn the channel fast enough when one of his songs comes on. I'm going to do some research on this. I didn't know about Maine. Dan from Philly asks, did Ray LaMontagne write the song that Corey Feldman sang to his wife on Valentine's Day? He might have. It seems like a possibility. Please YouTube that if you haven't seen it already. Just YouTube Corey Feldman and Valentine's Day. I got a lot of responses to my Kobe column that ran in the magazine, not all of which I've seen. I mean, I don't see a lot of the emails anyway. I only see a portion of them. But, it's interesting having a sports column because like 90% of the time they turn out totally the way I want to. I would say 9 out of 10 times. Then there's the 10th time where either I didn't have enough time or then I look back and I wish I had done something differently or whatever. And the Kobe column was one of those that I felt like I had a really good idea. I knew 90% of what I wanted to say, but I couldn't quite put the jigsaw puzzle together, and that'll happen in columns. What's weird is like the 1,200 word magazine columns, sometimes I'll get emails like, oh, you mailed that one in. And actually, first of all, I slave over everything I write. I mean, I spend way too much time on everything I work on. So with the magazine column, I might have an idea, I might sketch it out, I might take, maybe 3-4 hours at a first pass, write it, tinker with some stuff. Then I usually get away from it for a day and come back. So I would say the whole process is maybe 8 hours for the actual writing, but I'm also thinking about it the whole week and trying to think of stuff for it. With the Kobe column, I was sick on the first day because I somehow got food poisoning. I know it always sounds like I'm sick, but I got food poisoning the day before it was due. So I basically had to congest everything into that one day and still didn't feel totally 100%. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you that the process was a little screwed up and the column was due. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I just wish I could rewrite that because it's like it needs 2 fixes and it'll be fine. But that's just one of those things. Like I would say that having a column is like almost like I would say being like a college basketball player or maybe even an NBA player where you let's say you have 82 games a year. You're going to have some good games. You're going to have some bad games. You're going to have some days when everything feels fantastic. And then you're going to have those games where you look back and be like, man, why didn't I do that? Or why didn't I do this? So anyway, the point is there was a column there and I didn't quite get to it 100%. But anyway, one of the things that I missed was, the ending. I said how if something like if Kobe had put up what LeBron put up in MSG, I'd love him too. Now, if I had the 2-day process instead of the 1-day process, what I would have done is looked up all of Kobe's best games to make sure that he didn't have a game as close as what LeBron did. But I didn't do that because I'm rushing through this. And as it turns out, Kobe put up a 53-10-8 against Houston 2 years ago, which was actually an overtime game. So it gets a little bit of an asterisk. But still, that's like one of those little small things that I missed. And now I would rewrite the ending to that column. Basically, I can never even look at that column again. It's just like it's a lost opportunity, and I'm mad at myself, and that's it. J9 in San Francisco, I mentioned in the Kobe column about that the hater gimmick kind of. This is another thing I screwed up. I said it started on the internet. It actually didn't start. it kind of rose to prominence on the internet because it really started in hip hop and rap in the early 90s, but maybe didn't become as huge as it did. But JP in San Fran writes, the term hater in this context was coined by Filthy Phil, a rapper from Richmond, California, on his Consequences EP released in 1990. He was the first person to use the term player hater, which describes a person who tried to prevent you from achieving your goals for no other reason than being jealous or envious of you. You may also remember Filthy Phil from being on America's Most Wanted in 1991 and 1992 for shooting a cop after being pulled over. He released another EP called The Manhunt while he was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. A term hater, like so many popular catchphrases and terms, has its roots in the Bay Area. So I implore you, sir, to stop hating on the Bay and give us our props. San Fran Bay Area, you get your props. Hater started there. I thought that was interesting, though. And also a little update on Jacko's Facebook page, which is up to like 2,000 members, shockingly. And I just hope it doesn't degenerate into hating of Jacko, because that would be sad. But let me see what it's up to. Hold on. It's not like we're taping this or anything. Oh, wait, we are. 1,815 fans. Now, Joe Mead, you there?
I'm here.
So apparently somebody started a Facebook group about you.
No way.
Yeah. There's a Joe Mead Facebook group. I gotta find it though, because Damashek signed up for it.
Oh, good.
And it had 29 members, a little low, but
so 29 more than I would have thought.
But it might get up, and I can't find it. Well, anyway, there's a Joe Mead Facebook fan group for people who love Joe Mead. So sign up for that. We'll see who can get more fans, you or Jacko. This could be an interesting 2009 competition. Don't you think?
I got my money on Jacko. He gets a lot more airtime.
And a lot more fodder for Jacko to just complain about and be crazy about. Like for you, it's like not until, I think if Notre Dame has a heartbreaking loss in March Madness, that could be fun.
Yeah.
You could vent about it for a couple minutes. Anyway, I'm off to Phoenix for All-Star Weekend, and I don't think our next podcast is going to be till Wednesday or Thursday next week. So until then, we'll see you in the BS Report.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.